Bill O'Reilly. Historical context of Confederate flag represents bravery. Like, this is a good one. I know, TJ, you want to rant on this one.
Not treason.
So you're more than welcome to go after the video. Here we go. It might take me a second to get the video up, guys, so stay tuned. Oh, there we go, yeah.
And after that church massacre, proposals to ban the Confederate flag are gaining momentum across the United States. 22 News explains why companies are pulling those flags from their shelves and how your neighbors feel about it.
It should come down. It should be removed immediately.
In the wake of the Charleston church massacre, there's been a proposal to ban the Confederate flag. Dylan Roth, the gunman who killed 9 people in a Bible study in South Carolina, embraced the flag as a symbol of white supremacy.
Whether it's a bad part of history or a good part of history, it's a part of history, South Carolina history. And, you know, I don't know.
Civil rights groups argue the flag now causes pain and is a symbol for racism, although many residents argue it will always be a historic symbol for the Civil War and honors the fallen soldiers.
The flag to them is a piece of history representing the South and the North and the South Civil War. I don't think it should be banned.
Now major retailers like Walmart are pulling the Confederate flag from their shelves and from being sold online. Joining Walmart are Target, Amazon, and eBay, which no longer sell the flag online. And some residents do agree with that move.
They should be removed, especially if it's causing problems. You know, there's enough things going on in this world now.
Companies banning the flag now say it's a symbol of racism and it shouldn't be promoted. South Carolina's governor wants the flag taken down from the State House. Rallies and protests are expected this week.
We're going to have, right after you guys, we're going to have a analysis of how these websites, these white-driven websites, how much influence they really have. Because in my life, I don't go on the internet. I'm not trolling the internet. I mean, to me, it's a giant sewer.
Yeah,
okay?
I agree.
And I want to stay as far away from the sewer as I can. But these white power Nazi websites, they exist, but so do the black power Panther websites. And I'm saying to myself, have they broken out? Have these white power websites that have always been there since the internet's been invented broken out? Have they?
Well, I think that when you see a young man like Mr. Roof, or whatever you want to...
he seeks them out.
Right, and so he seeked it out, and I think that you have in this country, again, a lot of anger. It's very curious, you know, because you talked about it as if it's a parallel, black websites that preach hate and white websites, and I don't see it that way, Bill. I think that you have this white ideology and anger.
Go to Farrakhan's website.
No, but that's, listen, that's, again, much smaller in scope than people who believe. When this young man says this stuff about blacks are taking over or you're raping our what, that kind of thinking is bizarre.
He's a sick terrorist.
No, don't just write it off as sickness, because I think, as I said to you earlier, there's a lot of distrust and I think maligning of black people in this society.
I think that Dylan Roof, this idiot we're looking at now, represents 0.1% of the population.
I wish.
That's what I believe.
I got to tell you, Mary. Let me just say one last thing, Mary Catherine.
Hold on. I agree with Juan that it's not as if there's an absence of a problem here. There's certainly people who believe this, and Roof is proof of that. Here's the thing that's interesting, though, is that one of the things we've heard in reports about him is one of the reasons he felt so isolated is because he could not find the people who wanted to do this this kind of awful thing with him. And so I think that is, he lives in South Carolina. It's not the place that it was 60 years ago, and so we shouldn't ignore that.
You're always going to have them. Go ahead, one last word.
You know, I just wanted to say, we're having a very difficult conversation here this evening, but I just wanted to end on this note. You saw Mitt Romney say we should take that flag down. The Confederate flag, symbol of hate. You saw people like Tim Scott, Reverend Goff, the man who spoke in the church yesterday. They talked about he wanted a race war, and in fact, somehow this is bringing black and white people together. I think we sometimes don't celebrate when people come together.
That's a positive.
Charleston's response has been amazing.
I gotta go. You say the Confederate flag is a symbol of hate, and you believe that.
That's the way I feel when I see it.
Okay. And absolutely 100% legitimate. For some other people who see it in a historical context.
What's the historical context?
It represents bravery.
Oh, get out of town. Bravery, they put it up. They put it up in anger when they were trying to mass resist the civil rights movement in the 60s.
You know as well as I do that it represents to some bravery in the Civil War because the Confederates fought hard.
That wasn't the civil.
But in South Carolina, it's an issue of government endorsement. That's the issue.
But that's what it represents. You're right historically. But in their minds, that's what it represents. And in your mind, it represents hate. So, and everybody should know what the two sides are believing.
That's legit.
All right.
Oh my God! Fucking
Jesus, I'm sure Bill O'Reilly would say the same thing about like the ISIS flag. If the ISIS flag was being flown at some Capitol building or being sold in Walmart or whatever, he would have no problem. He would actually probably support them taking it the fuck off the shelves. By the way, that's a private issue. Walmart makes their own fucking decisions.
Correct.
Right.
And they make those decisions according to the blowback they're getting. They outweigh, the cost versus the benefit. That's how they fucking make their decisions, the bottom line. The same with eBay and Amazon and any other fucking place that stops selling Confederate flags. Now, the place that continue selling them are making a lot more money.
Yeah.
And whatever. They're not, by the way, banning it. They're simply trying to say they should take it down from the state building.
Which should be a no-brainer.
I mean,
I don't know about the people trying to force things on it though. I've always thought about the flag as a symbol of like treason and sedition of a state that tried to rebel against the United States. I don't see it as a racist thing. That's why I'm getting kind of mad that these people are forcing it
here in Florida.
Well, I think it's racist, so I think it should be gone.
Well, the thing is, you got to remember this, Paul, and this is undeniable that people do use the flag as a form of like the racism. It's definitely there.
That's true, but in Florida, there's a lot of people who just use it as like a symbol for like redneck, and not necessarily like racist.
True.
In fact, someone showed me a video today of this like black guy that dresses up like in the fucking Confederate uniform and goes around waving the fucking Confederate flag at the Capitol building in Washington, and like talks to people about it. And he's, seems like a totally fine guy, and he makes decent arguments. Personally, I think it's a fucking free speech issue. Fly whatever fucking flag you want at your house, or hang it up in your. I don't give a shit. But
I was actually going to mention that Finite. What Finite said. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
anyway,
ahead.
No, TJ, I agree with you. Personal, fly it on your lawn, do whatever you want, put it on your.
Sorry, bro, I didn't
on
mean
your
to cut
car.
you off.
Yeah, that's fine.
To read chat, you know what I'm saying? Like, you douchebag.
Yeah, but when it comes to government buildings, I agree. Yeah, it should be taken down. Put the United States flag up, even though they were flying both. But I say bring it down.
Oh, yeah, government building definitely. Yeah.
I don't think eBay and Amazon should have they should continue selling it. I think it's more of a free speech issue.
But they're private entities, and they get
can
to make
their own
that decision.
Correct.
I personally think
I agree.
that Walmart making the decision, ouch, a lot of fucking Southerners and like, rednecks and shit like that, people that would buy a Confederate flag, shop at Walmart.
Yeah.
eBay, I mean, that's a place where I bought that fucking flag on the wall behind me on eBay. A lot of people go to eBay and Amazon to look for shit like that. I think I don't understand why they would, take it off or ban the sale of it. That just
no. You do know why. You do know why that there's going to be take it off or ban the sale of. It's because the people who are doing or forcing this ultra authoritarian bullshit, ultra PC bullshit, are the ones who are saying, well, anything that is objectionable, anything that people might take offense at, anything that might harm someone, we have to ban because we have to make everything a safe fucking space for everyone.
I see your point. There's no doubt, and like I said, I feel these places should be able to sell them. They should be able to sell it. That's fine. But government buildings, it should be taken down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it should be. You should be able to. It's you're hindering people's free speech. You're hindering people from putting that flag or buying that flag to put on the truck. To maybe they like the history of their state. I'm fine with that.
It's not like they're handing out fines for flying the Confederate flag anywhere else, like off the back of your truck, or you have a Confederate flag sticker. But if it's like a state endorsed license plate, or the license plate thing is even a little bit wishy-washy too, because they have, in Florida, they have all kinds of right-wing and religious license plates, and you have to pay extra for them. And I don't, whatever, you want to waste your money on some stupid fucking license plate or whatever, that ends up not bothering me so much, knowing that at least some of that extra money goes back into the state, and all it is a fucking license plate. It's not affecting me like that much. And it's same with the fucking Confederate flag. While it does, I mean, I can totally understand how people could be offended by the Confederate flag and how it can be taken in that way. Totally fucking understand that. But this all of a sudden reaction, as if like just this month it became the top issue, when for all these fucking years it's just been kind of going along, and you know, very little noise is made of it. That's what I'm like. I'm very suspicious of.
Well, you know what you should do then? You know what you should do? You should actually look into what's going on in the House and the Senate right now, because if they're making this much noise over something so fucking stupid, you know they're doing something behind the scenes and trying to get the public mind and public thoughts off of it.
Anyways,
one thing I guess we can agree on to a certain point that the flag has been used for racism.
Oh, absolutely.
As a symbol of racism.
Absolutely.
You can't deny that fact.
Yeah,
and that's a fact.
But it's a symbol of racism in itself.
In itself, people promote it that way, you know, and it is undeniable that it is promoted that way. You know, you see people talk about gays and they wave the fucking flag. It does fucking happen. It's undeniable.
Well, yeah. One thing I wanted to ask, I was kind of, I thought TJ was going to come from where he came from, because TJ and I live in the South, and I thought it might be different, especially for Joe living in Jersey. I have no idea what people not living in the South see of the flag and stuff, but it's like a very, very common thing here. And it's,
I'm on the other side of the line.
Anytime you go to a venue and you're watching a band that's from any Southern state, there's a rebel flag there. I mean, and it's not. I've never looked at it and just be like, oh, these white supremacist motherfuckers might as well be.
I've always just seen it as like Southern pride. You know, I know
flag,
Southern
the stars
pride,
and bars,
pride of what they were trying to accomplish, what they were trying to do. I know it's treason, it's sedition, but they're proud of, like, the state, proud of. It's like being proud of the United States, waving the United States flag. You're just proud of what that was. And I know it's fucking bad. The Confederacy was bad, but there's still people are still proud of shit. You know,
it's become more of a symbol.
And bars, the stars and bars is not the same as a fucking like white hood. If you under like, I don't know how to describe it. I said earlier, I can understand how people get offended by it, but it just seems like people don't. Around like the people I know, and I know people that are totally not racist, that you know, that identify as like redneck though, and I guess part of the misconception is like anything Southern or redneck or anything like that, or you know, knowing how to work on a motor and living in Louisiana, and being white automatically makes you racist if you have a Confederate flag or something. People just use it as a symbol for different shit. And whatever. At the same time, while I defend who use the flag to represent whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. At the same time, don't put it up on a goddamn Capitol building in your state, building, or any of that shit, because then you're kind of sending the wrong fucking message.
Put it in a museum. You know what I mean? Put it in a museum. You know, if you want to.
I mean, when you're talking about like publicly funded
historical
places and stuff,
absolutely.
If it has any kind of historical meaning,
that's a part of history.
History.
Oh, and that brings me up on another thing that I saw, that they're pushing to try to mark and take down the Confederate monuments that are in the states, right?
No,
I haven't seen that.
I read that they're trying to mark them, and then people are like getting mad that they're still up, right?
Well, I did see one in South Carolina where they graffitied "Black Lives Matter" on top of the statue. I'm sorry, Matt, that's vandalism.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm getting at. I saw this article in there. They're trying to like identify all the monuments because they're upset that they're still up, and I'm like, okay, well, I understand, but it's still part of history. It's the same as, I'm going to compare it, the people who want to destroy the statues just to write history are the same as the people who destroy statues in museums because they don't want them to be shown.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. What do you feel? Is there a difference between, say, the Confederate type memorials and the cross, compared to the cross, like at memorial sites, you know, for the Civil War and stuff like that, where there's crosses, erected where people are trying to take them down?
I think I'm okay with the cross marking your gravestone as long as you were obviously a fucking Christian and said so.
No, I mean like the big crosses, like.
No, I'm talking about like you're
like
talking about government endorsed. How about like all of the crosses in what's it called? Arlington.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, you think they were all fucking Christian?
No.
Well, there's like a few like Stars of David, but it's like
a few Jews in there, but otherwise, nothing else.
And they were probably fucking rabbis is like the only reason they got away with like a Star of David.
Jesus. Or did they segregate all the atheists and shit in just an unmarked grave since they don't believe anything? They have no symbol to fucking put up. There's lines to be drawn. There's different comparisons to be made. All in all, basic, like in 20 words or less, it's a free speech issue. Doesn't really offend me, but I can understand how it can offend others.
Correct.
Shouldn't be fucking put on any kind of public fucking land, like flown over a state building.
And it shouldn't be used as racism, but they have the right to use it if they want.
Totally understand how it could be considered racism. That is
absolutely
totally understandable.